Welcome to the AP Sports Pod. This is our Circa Million show. Quick recap on a Thanksgiving weekend of week 11. Looking ahead to week 12, it's a little bit of a weird week because we've already had 4 games. So there's more to talk about than just the week 11 games. It's kind of old news at this point, but we'll blast through it quickly. Anyway, starting with Chargers and Packers. I still think the Chargers were the right side. I've never seen such egregious drops in a game before in my life. Cost them a bunch of points, even a 4-point drop by Keenan Allen, who's very good. Turned out not getting the win, not getting the cover. I don't hate it because I'm on the underside of the Chargers win total futures. That's looking pretty good right now. They didn't win, they didn't cover. Bears went to Detroit, actually played pretty well, controlled the game. Justin Fields did his thing. They still lost, but with 4 turnovers from Detroit and only 19 minutes of time of possession for the Lions, they were not able to win by any type of margin. Although that fumble at the end, it was interesting. I was telling myself, I need a pick six, and bam, the ball's out on the ground. It's rolling in the end zone. They just couldn't get to it. Cowboys and Carolina Panthers, blowout city, as we expected. Not much to talk about there. Rams and Seahawks, probably a game I don't think the Rams should have won. I think they ended up -2 on the point spread, or maybe -1, -2. I don't recall, going back to last weekend. Seattle was in total control of that game, didn't put the Rams away. And then McVay tried to give it away at the end. So that game was just, passing the baton back and forth between who really wants to win this game. Anyway, ended up getting a Rams cover. That one, I don't feel real confident about taking any credit for. And then Monday Night Football, Broncos and Vikings. Good game. 2 teams that I like. I think 2 evenly matched teams. Came down to a 2-point conversion. Didn't love the Broncos call there. It was a little like side toss. But anyway, ended up 2-3 on the week. It broke our hot streak. We were 13-1-1 heading into week 11. So probably out of contention for the weeks 10 to 12 mini contest. Overall, we're 31-23-1. That's right on the cusp of being able to make a little bit of money doing this. So let's go ahead and talk about week 12. Here we go. Let's fire it up. Here are the picks for week 12. Now, if you look at this overall, I'm going to drop some knowledge on you.
Knowledge is life of the mind.
You see a lot of -3.5s up here. Now, my intention a few weeks ago was to take more dogs. I've got no dogs on this board. You also tend to not take teams with the hook. If it's -2.5, you want to take the -2.5. If the line's 3.5, you want to take +3.5. Well, looky here. I got -2 at Jacksonville and -3.5 for every other team on my card this week. So here's a little data. Teams favored by exactly 3.5 points at home this year are 8-4 against the spread. That's pretty good. Teams that are favored by 3.5 points this year on the road are 6-2 against the spread. That's a combined 14-6 for a 70% win percentage. So I don't know about all this 3.5 to 3. 3.5 is going to tempt people to taking the +3.5, and the inverse record is true. So those, if you want to take +3.5 this year, you're 6-14. You go ahead and do that. And again, I've talked about this before on here. This is where subjectivity comes into play. Do you think it's going to balance out? In which case you would want to keep taking the +3.5? Or do you think this is a trend you want to ride? In this case, I think I've got 3.5 points with the significantly better team in every single one of them. But let's start with Houston and Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville's the better team. I think Houston's a nice story. With Kansas City losing to Philadelphia on Monday night, I think this brings all the 3 lost teams into focusing potentially on the number 1 seed. I don't see Houston as a team that's ever going to contend for the number 1 seed this year. Jacksonville's got a shot. So I think this is a spot where Jacksonville got hammered by the 49ers 2 weeks ago, rebounded and crushed whoever they played last week. Now they're going to Houston in a revenge game. Houston beat them earlier this year. It's time to put Houston in their place. Okay. That was a bit of a weird game. I went back and I looked at the game log from that game, and Jacksonville misses a field goal in the first quarter. They have another field goal blocked in the first half. Houston returns a kickoff for a touchdown. So that's like 13-point differential just on special teams. I don't see that happening again. Jacksonville is 3-0 against the spread on the road. When the book fades them, okay, when the book adjusts from the summer line to the opening line against Jacksonville, they're 4-1 against the spread. And when the public is on Jacksonville, they're 3-0 against the spread. So there's a lot to like here about Jacksonville on that line data. I think they're the better team. I think they're in a more, it's not a desperate spot, but it's a motivated spot. They can see the number one seed. The number one seed is in their sights. Okay? I think they have a game with Baltimore coming up in a few weeks. And Houston beat them last time. I think this is a spot Jacksonville hammers down. I don't think it's a blowout, but I think it may be a touchdown win. Let's go Tennessee versus Carolina. Again, I'm liking the better team at home, -3.5 points. Tennessee at home averages 27 points a game. They give up 16 points a game. I don't think Carolina, now Carolina's a little bit better on the road, believe it or not. I don't think Carolina is going to be able to score enough to keep up with Tennessee. Tennessee's in an interesting spot here because they could go either way. They could go tank mode, which I don't think is their culture. I don't think that's Mike Vrabel. I don't think that's the GM that they got from the 49ers staff. I don't think they're going to tank. I don't think they're going to intentionally lose. Do they have an outside shot of making the playoffs? Yes. They've got Carolina this week. They've got Indianapolis next week. If they can go 2-0 in those games, they can sniff around the bottom end of the playoffs with things that are happening. Buffalo's not in the playoffs. Cincinnati's not in the playoffs. Houston's in there and can fall out. Like so they got 2 games with Houston coming up. Tennessee, with a couple of wins here, can sniff the bottom rung of the playoff, that 7 or 8 spot. Must be the 7 seed because this isn't basketball. 8 teams don't make it. 7 teams make it. So I like Tennessee here. Philadelphia and Buffalo. Buffalo is up and down to me. They were up last week against just an absolutely pathetic Jets team. They have not played anybody the caliber of the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't think. Buffalo's 1-3 against the spread on the road. They're 1-4 against the spread when the public is on them. And this line opened up 4. I think it moved down to 3.5. It might even be 3 right now, but the contest line is -3.5. That hasn't gone well for the backers of the Buffalo Bills. We talk about Philadelphia. Philadelphia's got a few tough games coming up. They played Kansas City. They've got Buffalo here. They've got the 49ers. I think they play Dallas after that. And then maybe Seattle, I'm not sure. So they're in the early stages of a stretch of tough games. This is an AFC opponent. Again, I don't think Buffalo's seen anything the likes of Philadelphia. I love the way Philadelphia plays. They control the game. They control the ball. Feels like they can score when they need to. I think Philadelphia is the better team. I think we're going to catch Buffalo on the downswing. And Philadelphia is going to cover this one. Again, 7 to 10 points would be my guess. Baltimore at the Chargers. A little bit of a risky play here because I don't trust the Baltimore Ravens at all. I do trust the Chargers to screw something up. And so that's why I'm going with Baltimore. I think Baltimore's the better team. I think Baltimore's got the offense that can score with the Chargers. I do think the Chargers have a pretty good offense. But I think Baltimore also has the defense that can slow the Chargers down. So if they're playing relatively even, and we saw the Chargers play Detroit even, we've seen the last couple of weeks, Detroit's defense not very good. Baltimore does have a good defense. Okay, if they play even most of the game, all you need to cover 3.5 point spread is one exchange where the Ravens score a touchdown and the Chargers get a field goal. That's it. Just one time, one possession, one touchdown, one field goal differential. That's it. Okay, I think Baltimore's capable of doing that. the thing that worries me about Baltimore is they're living in the 1950s where they leave the doors unlocked. They leave the back door open. They could be up by 20 in the fourth quarter, and Justin Tucker kicks a game-winning field goal as time expires. They just do that. And in this game, it worries me more so than normal because the Chargers can score fast. The Chargers have a good enough offense to score. Again, I think they should have scored more points last week at Green Bay. So this one's going to be nervy for me because I don't like picking Baltimore. I do like picking against the Chargers, but they are respectable. They are formidable. So we'll see how it goes Sunday Night Football here. And then on Monday night, Minnesota versus Chicago. Again, another 3.5 point spread. I will take it all day long. I don't really buy Justin Fields. Tip of the cap. Okay, played well against Detroit. And again, we've seen that Detroit doesn't have a very good defense. They control the ball. They still lost against Minnesota. Minnesota's got a squad. Minnesota's pretty good. Minnesota hasn't lost much, if anything, going to Josh Dobbs over Kirk Cousins after the season-ending injury. Defense is playing well. They're not a pretty team. Okay, so if I'm comparing the last week's opponents for the Bears, you're not going to get the sexy Detroit offense, but you're not going to get the sieve that is a defense. So I expect Minnesota to plug and plod, and this is one of those games where they just need to play 1980s football. Just when you're in field goal range, kick a field goal. When you're in the red zone, try to get a touchdown. Obviously want to do that, but don't do this hyper analytics fourth down stuff. You're better than the Bears. You're better offensively. You're better defensively. Just play straight up football, and you should have no problem covering 3.5 points. I'm probably a little bit lower on the Bears than I should be, but I don't think in this spot it's going to matter too much. I like the Vikings. I like the direction the Vikings are headed. They're on a roll. They did have this stretch on their schedule, which I talked about with my buddy on our other show for the Westgate Super Contest. They were going to go on a tear with Kirk Cousins. They lost Kirk Cousins. They're winning the games anyway. This is the part of their schedule where they are flexing. With the Detroit loss on Halloween, they can sniff the division. They stay on Detroit's heels. They play 2 of the last 3 weeks. Minnesota wins this game with a little pep in their step off the Detroit loss. I like this one by maybe 10 or so points. I like all of these games to cover by a margin over the 3.5. So Jacksonville, just a good spot to put Houston in their place. Tennessee's the better team with, I still think, minimal playoff aspirations against Carolina, who's going nowhere. The up and down Bills will lose to perhaps the best team in the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles. Baltimore has been the best team in the league this year so far, but they leave the back door open, which leaves me worried against the Chargers. And I think Minnesota's just flat out better than the Chicago Bears. And so that's it. Hoping for a 5-0 week. Let's get back on track. I still don't think, even if I do go 5-0, I don't think I'm in contention for the mini contest here from weeks 10 to 12, but we'll be back at it, trying to improve that overall record, get up to a little bit higher percentage where I feel confident going forward with my process heading into the last part of the season and next season, which we've already committed to doing. We're going to do it again, probably even expand. So hopefully we stay hot, win some cash. And this is helpful for anybody who watches it. Have a good one. Enjoy the games. Happy Thanksgiving weekend. Peace.